Hey guys. Server Blight. Yeah, unlike 80% of Server Blight videos, I don't really have to, convey the information to you again. I'm pretty sure if you clicked on this video, you know exactly what it is. You do, however, want to know where this thing came from. And I think I can provide that. What's good? My name's Software Neos, and I am here to solve the origins of the Server Blight. Alright, so before spitting out facts on the screen, you kinda gotta realize what are the rules for this sort of thing. Some of you may be saying, rules? What are you talking about? There's rules to this stuff? And there are. See, the Server Blight is not really like every single other horror story that you've ever heard about. FNAF is probably the biggest example that I could use. See, in those types of games, the story has clear breadcrumbs, and it's kind of made in order for people in order to talk about them to rearrange a sort of timeline. I mean, sometimes for the worse. I mean, people are still talking about, Midnight Motorist to this day, but you know what I mean. In these types of horror games, it's pretty clear that there is a puzzle involved. The Server Blight is not really like this. We'll get into the details about it as we go to the points, but just trust me on this. We'll talk about it a little later. Because Server Blight is so different, you have to tackle it a different way in order to actually make theories about it. And here are the three things that I want to talk about. The real-life implications, what the Server Blight actually is, and its motive. I feel as though once you understand all those sorts of things, you can really form and actually make good Server Blight theories. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. So, after I explain all these three aspects, we can put them all together in order to finally understand what is the origins of the Server Blight. Real-life implications. Alright, so I talked a little bit about why Server Blight is so different compared to every single other horror genre. But I didn't really give a reason, so let's rectify that. In FNAF, in Bendy, in, every single other horror thing imaginable in video games, there is clearly a defined lore aspect to the game and a sort of puzzle piece to what you have to figure out. In Server Blight, this doesn't really happen. Think about it, guys. There's no Saxton Hale. There is no Marasmus. There is no lore dump of Scout. Every single character that we have seen is a real-life interpretation of what's going on. We are not playing Scout, we are playing a Scout. Meaning that most of the lore that you already know about TF2, whether it's, the actual trailers, the comic book or stuff like that, it's not gonna work. It's pretty clear that the horror of the Server Blight has to come from the fact that this video game is turning into real life. So, in order to reciprocate, rather than look at details that might not even explain it at the end of the day, simply be on Server Blight's terms. Rather than look at the lore, let's look at real-life aspects of TF2. The updates that were evolved, certain events, things like that. Because the Server Blight's whole thing about horror is this game coming into real life, it doesn't really make sense for me to not use real-life aspects of TF2 in order to explain his origins. But that begs the question. What event can you use in order to solve the origins of the Server Blight? Well, let's not give everything away, but here's a teaser. If you want to solve the theory, you gotta look at Save TF2. That's all I'm gonna say for now, but don't worry, everything else is gonna make sense soon. The Server Blight is AI. See, most of you either use AI in order to cheat on tests, or to talk to fake women that don't exist. So the Server Blight being AI can seem a little weird to some, but I'm gonna be honest, it's not. I think the smoking gun to the description is definitely its hands. I don't need to remind you, but every single time this thing is on the screen and it tries to attack you, its hands are always deformed. And before it even got the chance in order to gain more intelligence, guess what? It couldn't really process how many fingers are on a hand. It had to learn in order to figure that out. Considering the fact that most AIs in art literally can't do hands very well, I mean, Call of Duty can tell you about that, but I guess that's another story, but you know what I mean. AI's biggest problem is not faces, it's not legs, it's not anything else but hands. So the fact that at the beginning the Server Blight had problems in order to actually figure this out is kind of telling to me. Well, let's just say that this isn't the smoking gun that I think it is, right? What other aspects of the Server Blight could maybe tell us that it's AI? Well, to me, the increase in intelligence over the episodes kind of just screams this to me. I'm just saying, if the AI was actually a player, it would be able to know how to do certain things in the game. It definitely would not have needed help in order to disconnect from the server. It needed another player's information in order to know. Plus again, if it was a player instead of an AI, why does it have all of these abilities? And also, why does it need to learn the game? If it's a player, it should be pretty easy in order to do any aspect of TF2 that it wants to do. But it can't. Why can't it? Because it needs more information. Just like how regular AI, in order for it to actually work, you need to feed it information in order for it to keep doing processes. Well, okay, software, maybe it's AI. What does this have to do with its origins? I'm glad you asked, dear viewer. But again, we don't want to spoil it, so instead, let's go with the final aspect. And then afterward, we'll put all of this together to create our theory. The motive. A lot of people might skip out on this sort of thing, but me personally, I think it's very important. I understand that maybe a few people don't really want to know about the motive of the Server Blight, that it might, ruin the series if they knew. They kind of just want to see an amalgamation of a very hideous, disgusting creature trying to, invade the real life. That's the sort of intrigue. The fact that we don't know is probably scary enough. And you know what? Who am I to judge? Except for this aspect. In order to try to theorize, in order to try to understand, trying to get into the character's brain could probably tell you a few aspects that the story itself cannot. Again, to go by FNAF again, looking at William Afton's character has definitely given people a lot more aspects about the game rather than just some pieces of the puzzle that were already in the game. So, if that's the case, understanding motive can probably help us a lot. So that's what we're gonna do. What is the Server Blight's motive? Well, let's look at some of the emotions that it has. I think the biggest indicator was definitely episode 3. You can see it turn around and it definitely looks devious. It relishes in the fact that new people are coming for it to absorb. Not only that, but its actions in every single episode kind of just spell it out very bluntly. The Server Blight, in my humble opinion, could have killed every single person on the team very quickly. A lot of the times, there's nothing really anyone can do to stop it. Which means to me personally, that means that the Server Blight hates players. It doesn't want these guys to die. It wants the players to be in despair. Before it makes you a part of its hive mind, it's gonna make sure that you're scared shitless first. And if you aren't, then you're used so that other people can get scared, so that they could be its little playthings. Well, okay, so we know that it hates players, and we know that it's very vindictive, but what does that tell us about the motive? Well, it's not so clear right now, but let me say it anyway. The motive is that the Server Blight hates fun. Alright, so let's put everything together. Alright, so in order to understand the origins of the Server Blight, we need real-life implications, we need to know what the Server Blight is, and we need a motive. We know that it's an AI, and we know the fact that it hates players. So I guess if we want to use the real-life implication, those have to really, stick together. But what the fuck? We need a real-life implication of something that both has AI and would somehow hurt the players in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I guess the only thing that we can really have is, like, you know, save TF2, but I don't know how that would... Wait a minute. Oh my god, I know what it is now. If the audience doesn't think it's too clear, the Server Blight is a bot. I know it sounds weird because we already know it's an AI, but no, legitimately. If you remember what happened in Save TF2, I think the Server Blight is either one or all of those bots. See, for anyone that doesn't know, and if they don't, I don't even know why you're in this video, but whatever. Fix TF2 was a campaign sort of thing, where there was a lot of bots that were literally making it almost impossible for people to play and have fun for, I believe, years. It got so bad that actually trying to even bring information to it would automatically probably get you doxxed by a lot of people. The whole botting community was definitely built on degeneracy and just a hatred for people actually enjoying the game. But, luckily, this stopped. However, what does this really have to do with the Server Blight? See, because the Server Blight isn't really based on, like, lore in the series, and even the videos that are provided to us don't really give us a lot of information, in order to figure it out, you would have to actually look at real-life implications of what happened. And in real life, a lot of those bots and a lot of those players were banned. I personally don't think it would be a stretch the fact that either one of these bots or an amalgamation of all these bots somehow got together in order to form this, I don't know, super AI that instead of trying to, like, destroy people's fun, they are now trying to kill them. And it would kind of make sense because beforehand, the only thing that these bots were used for was to annoy you. It was to make sure that this sort of landscape of TF2 is just barren and that nobody would play it ever again. That's what their purpose was. But what happens if you get rid of them? Well, guess what? They don't have a purpose anymore. And if their purpose was to annoy you and now you can't let them do that anymore, they're gonna get even more vindictive than what they already were. Beforehand, the bots were just used by players in order to annoy people. Now, it seems as though that these bots probably have emotions now because so many of them were banned all at once. And I think this swelling of information and emotion slowly created the Server Blight. I mean, even its nature is weird. If it was just like some random AI that had no recollection of anything and no emotions, then why does it get so vindictive about, like, doing ugly things to people? Why not just take your meat and run? And you want to know why? It's because its fun beforehand was annoying you, and now that shit is gone. And because it's gone now, it's now going to do the next step, which is taking your life. It kind of makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Because look at it like this, the Server Blight now has a reason to go after these players and to be as vindictive as possible. It's also not a relatable villain at all if you consider this. Because think about it, if it was just AI that was made to, like, take away people's fun, and now all it wants to do is take away your life afterward because it doesn't have its fun anymore, then guess what? That's just a shitty person. Usually we have these villains that have a sort of backstory to make them at least feel a little empathetic to them, you know? But if this was the origins of the Server Blight, you would hate him and loathe him and fear him even more. This isn't a person that was wronged. He was a piece of shit before, and now because you took away his things to make other people miserable, he's gonna take your life. He's below even that. He is below scum. Even from what he did, he could not take away your fun. He could not take away your TF2. So if we can't take away your TF2, then guess what? We're gonna take away your life. It's honestly the perfect backstory for a creature like this. I know a lot of people would not want to know the origins because it makes him look scarier, but knowing an origin like this makes me loathe this creature. It makes me loathe him because it came from cesspools of waste and garbage. Think about it. That's scary enough. You want to know why? Because it means that the bot hosters won. Throughout all their shitty things, all their shitty tactics, and all their shitty things to people, their amalgamation of terrible emotion created this creature. And if I had to put a theory out there, the Server Blight is the theory on if the bot hosters won. This is the timeline where Valve itself could not stop the bot hosters. They could get rid of them, but their emotions, their negativity, their terribleness seeped in and infected the code of TF2 itself in order to get rid of players. And to me, that's fucking scary. Because if that's the case, then the whole theme of Server Blight itself is that evil people can still get what they want. But, you know what? Who knows? That's just a theory.